Hello, everyone. Hello. So let me just be clear. I realize we're like half an hour late, and really we're just here to hear Gary ask me. So I just want you to know that I'm aware that my primary responsibility is to introduce Gary as me. So that said, but I wanted to do it, but I was also feeling that I wanted to contribute to this reflection too. So here's what I'll do. I think in the context of what Gary means, I think, to the community, I'll do this. So when I came out of high school, I came here, if we're thinking about the length of people who had been dealing with MEP, I didn't know Charles Tunstall. So I think he went missing. So I never met him. But Tony Torres was the MEP director. So Tony was the one who, I guess we're going by cohorts. So she was kind of the leader of my cohort. And then Michelle came thereafter. But what was interesting about it was when we were talking about how to go to college and where you're going to choose to go and whatever. So I came from New York, as you know. I came out here in the 11th grade, and I met Reggie, and there were all these New York cats out here, and Kevin Jones was here. We're like, all right, we'll just take over California. It's not much. But let me put it in the context of what being elite means. So we essentially are the most elite black people in the country relative to these technical skills. There's no question about that. But when I was choosing to go to college, I was asked this at this, I was talking at this kind of student meeting, and these youngsters were like, so what did you do? How did you decide between which college and the other college? And it was all this, like, I had done all this research. But in them days, you didn't do research. It was like, yo. So Rhea, who was over there, she was kind of my first girlfriend. So she was like, yo, I'm going to go to MIT, and then if not, I'm going to go to Berkeley. I was like, for real? Me too. About that deep. So the thing about it was, the reason that I bring that up is to say this. There were enough people at the time that I could just choose to go between these elite institutions just following these other smart systems. There were enough of us to be able to make those kinds of choices. And even just the ability to be flip about it. Choosing between the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and the University of California at Berkeley. I'm like, you know what I mean? It's cold at MIT, I don't know, but Rhea's going to Berkeley, so I'm going to go there. You know what I mean? Like, consider the privilege that's embedded in that. So here's the deal. This is why I think the sobering part of this is that the circumstances for our people have gotten a lot more difficult. Earlier today, Noberta said that the heyday of BESA was in the late 80s and early 90s. Our community has been decimated since then. There have been years since then and now where there were no black freshmen at all in the College of Engineering. None, not one. Think about the implications of that. So this is the flagship public institution in the state. It doesn't matter that there are not a lot of black people in California. It doesn't matter to me. The fact that there was not one in a year in my lifetime, and I'm not one of these old school cats. I'm just saying, like, it would be acceptable for there not to be a black student in the College of Engineering in 1960-something. It's not acceptable after Chubb Rock got on the scene. You know what I mean? It's not. But that is what we were contending with. So the sobering nature of all of this, what I do at the moment, I'm now at Georgia Tech, so I was a rotator at NSF for a while, which was an interesting experience. So under that, I got to serve on the task force for my brother's keeper, and for the STEM and entrepreneurship section of that. But what that meant was that we got to go all over the country and find out how difficult the situation is for our people. So just the idea that we're now reflecting on how to legitimize and prioritize Black Lives Matter. At the same time, we're trying to get our folks into the most difficult kinds of subjects that require the most commitment to study in institutions that are not serving us in the ways that they ought to. So we're asking the most of students coming out of the institutions that are giving us the least. And it's a confluence of those things that's causing us problems. So what it means then for us, ultimately this community of people, sadly, is shrinking. the reason that the room isn't full is that in 2015, there were only about 2,000 black people in the United States who got better than 700 on the math section of the SAT. In the entire country. If you go to better than 750, there were only about 450 of them in the entire United States. These kinds of institutions require that you have those kinds of skills. Whether you want to say that those exams are culturally biased or not, they are real barriers to entry. And the institutions that we come from don't prepare us to get there. So all of this kind of STEM stuff that we're talking about all over the country, in many instances, it's just a cloak. Like you can go and do your little robotics program, and you do your little STEAM certification. What did you get on the test? Did you take AP, Advanced Placement, BC Calculus? Did you get a 4 or a 5? In Atlanta, I'm gonna stop this soon because I'm gonna get myself angry. In Atlanta, we have 52,000 students in the Atlanta public school system. 80% of the 11th and 12th graders are black men. 4,150 something of them. We only have about 350 who actually take any of the STEM AP exams. 350. In Atlanta, which in the day was the Black Mecca. It's now just a city with black people. But of those 350, only 101 of them got 3 or better on any of them. In the whole city. And Georgia Tech sits in the middle of that. UCLA had 100 and something thousand applications for their freshman class of only 6,000 seats. Their average freshman in the top quartile had more than 21 advanced placement courses or IB courses or dual enrollment courses. IB, for those of you who don't know, is International Baccalaureate. Atlanta Public Schools, there's nobody who's done that. Not one student. The other part of that problem is that their average math SAT score is 730. Keep in mind the fact that I dropped on you earlier. There are only about 2,000 black people in the entire United States who can do that. And those are not students who want to study STEM stuff. Those are just students who want to go to UCLA to act and get close to whoever and do whatever. So, the reason I bring all this up is to say that the circumstances that we're under are becoming increasingly difficult. The infrastructure at institutions like these are beginning to break down. And they are now under political assault at the same time. The reason that Michelle, there's no continuity behind her. Remember that. There isn't currently a structure to keep pace with the minority engineering program. There isn't one. There has been for decades, but there isn't now. So here's where the problem is. So our charge is that we are increasingly a remote set of elite people. With that comes the responsibility of being conscious of that. In that, unfortunately, as they were saying in the panel earlier, we have to deal with that responsibility. It isn't a choice. If we're going to be able to continue to excel, and I'm not saying that we don't have to be at all parts of the spectrum, we do. We have to be at all parts of the spectrum. But at this elite level, in order to maintain our presence here, which has an undue and disproportionate set of access to power, we have to be able to build an infrastructure that get us and keep us here to be successful. So therein lies how the context, I think, of this introduction works. So here's Gary, who we all know. The playbook for that, if you read the bio, it's in there. So I don't need to go through all the details because he's kind of Pharaoh, everybody knows him. I'm saying, you know what I mean? Like, what's nice about this, for real, let me just tell you these other stories real quick. The other thing that's nice about this is that he's the chancellor of the University of California at Davis. The chancellor. Say it. Chancellor. I end up forgetting all these millions of people that helped you get there, right? Now you're big time at some fancy company and you got layers of barriers to get access to you. There aren't any here. This is the chancellor. And I was like, yo. And he responded back, B. And I'm like, word. You know what I mean? So what is that? That's a sense of commitment. Of having no separation between being brother and being chancellor. And that's the part that's important. And those are the kinds of people that we need more of. So I think here, Gary S. May, what you offer to us is the exemplification of that. So that as we're aspiring to get to these greater and greater levels of responsibility and greater levels of significance and influence, the commitment to the least of us, the commitment to the rest of us, remains true. And with you, it's easy to see that you've never lost the idea of being brother. And to that extent, I think not only do we thank you personally, I think we also thank you for the example that you've set. It's unusual, I think, in this day. What I was going to say about your bio is for those of you who are youngins, I mean, I'm not old school, but I'm not young either. It's probably a precursor to one of those things that's going to be in history books about what it means to be a black man that matters, that never forgot, that is always present. I think those are the things and the kinds of people and legends that we need more of. So with that, Chancellor Gary S. May.